Good evening and welcome to An Outside View. I'm your host, Dick Sicaro, and joining me tonight is my co-host Bob Ford, and we have a special guest tonight, Councilor-elect Jack Lally in Ward 6.
Hi.
Councilor, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, now you'll be sworn in January with the
Yes.
rest of the councilors. Some were re-elected. You have another new councilor joining, a couple of new councilors joining you as well. Just had a close runoff, I believe, and Ollie Spears
Ward
was
5,
edged out
yep.
by Ann Beauregard in Ward 5 by only, I think, 3 votes.
That was pretty close, yeah.
Right, and then we have a new councilor at large as well, I believe.
Win Farwell, yeah.
Win Farwell, the former mayor of Brockton. So Jack has the distinction of being the youngest city elected official, I believe, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts history, correct?
That's what WBZ told me.
Okay.
I don't know that for a fact, but I'll take it.
All right. Well, we need some new blood up in the council chambers. So congratulations. We wish you the best of luck, and we're sure you're going to do a great job.
Thank you.
And a little bit about your background. We discussed a little earlier before the show started. Jack is a 2015 May graduate of Cardinal Spellman Catholic High School on the Hill, they call it, in Brockton.
Just across the line in Ward 5.
Right.
Just across.
And now you're attending, you are attending Bridgewater University.
Yes.
As a political science major.
Yes.
Great. All right, why don't we get into a little bit of some of the issues you ran on and what you think some of the top priorities in the city are that you'll be addressing as a newly elected councilor, and then we'll go from there.
I ran on public safety and fiscal responsibility. The fire station on North Carey Street. Mm-hmm. It's been in danger of being shut down, and I feel that'd be an unacceptable loss. We need to take great steps to prevent that, mm-hmm. because its loss would be almost like adding another tax to the people of Ward 6. And insurance rates will go up, the values of their house will go down. Mm-hmm. So we need to keep the station there. And even when you don't look at the money and you look at the human aspect, that fire station is responsible for saving a lot of lives on medical calls alone. Okay. And it gets there before the ambulance anytime, anywhere in the ward. Right. So without that station, mm-hmm. the people of Ward 6 would suffer. Right, and also you mentioned public safety. As we all know, we have a serious crime problem in the city. We were recently named the second most violent crime city in the Commonwealth of Mass, behind Chelsea. So we've had a drastic shortage of police officers. If you look at other cities comparable to Brockton in size, Quincy, New Bedford, Fall River, Taunton, and by the way, Fall River has a young gentleman as well that was elected their mayor, 23 years old. Yep. So crime, obviously, I think we need to increase our public safety police officers as well. We have about, I think, 185 police officers. We just recently had some new hires, and we're still short about 50 police officers compared to some of our competitive surrounding cities. The difficulty with that is you mentioned a couple other cities that comparable in size and other attributes, but they all have something else that gives them a boost. Mm-hmm. They might have a river, they might be on the water, on the ocean, get some benefit from that. Right. But Brockton has, we don't really have a river. We got a tiny. No, we have the Salisbury River. You're not gonna put a ship carrying any goods up and down that. We've got the railroad tracks, mm-hmm. and we've got Route 24, and there's no real. We could do with some more industry put around Route 24, right, and sort of a revitalization of the area around the railroad tracks, mm-hmm. which could help bring us some more revenue. Right. But the way it stands right now, a lot of the other cities that we're compared with, they've all got some geographical leg up.
Right.
that allow them to afford those more police officers, you know, and it makes us look worse by comparison.
Right, and the other thing they have in their favor is, Bob can attest to this as well as, I mean, they have a lot lower commercial tax rates that encourage cities to go elsewhere other than Brockton. We have one of the highest commercial tax rates in the Commonwealth of Mass. And it's going to go up again. Our mayor just passed a budget that calls for a full 2.5% tax increase. Right now, the commercial taxes are $33 per thousand. That's way above most surrounding communities.
Yeah, we all, I was going to say, we all know whose budget that really is, though.
Right, it's our
Esteemed CFO, yeah.
CFO,
Yep.
and he's also calling for a partial 2.5 override before he certifies some of the budget, being the money calling for repairs of the DPW, replace some of the pipes. So you may see a $13 million override at 2.5 earmarked for the DPW repairs and I think a copying machine. But as we all know, that has to go out on a referendum, and we've been unsuccessful, I think, 7 times when that was on a referendum. The people resoundingly voted against a 2.5 override.
Yeah, the amount of times people voted that down, you know, I don't know if it'll pass, but the only way a city can raise money is through taxes or money given to it by the state or the federal government.
Right.
So when the money we're going to get from the state or from the United States is unsure or it's reduced in some way,
Right.
we're forced more than usual to raise taxes.
Well, there are
And
other
it's-
alternatives, as we've talked about on numerous occasions on this show, getting out of some of the ridiculous business deals that our city has entered into. I mean, for years, they've been letting Stonehill College get away with literally murder on the fees they're paying us and not using our sewer system. Their only other alternative was to join the MWRA, which required them to have a $5 million hookup from the get-go. So I just read recently, our mayor renegotiated the contract for 22 years out. And part of the deal was we were going to get $1 million more in revenues. And I think they committed $2.8 million in scholarships to Brockton students to go to the school. However, it still doesn't solve the problem for an individual hookup with the residential dormitories up there versus a one bulk meter that would measure accurately the entire outflow. So I think if you did your homework, and some of the other councils, hopefully, when you look into this deal, I think it's got to go before the council before you
It's
sign
going
up
up.
on it.
I think it's going before the council
Yeah,
next week.
so I
You know,
would-
I plan to.
Yeah,
If I can't be there, at least watch it. But
Right,
I'm
right.
gonna try and be there and, you know, read up on it as much as I can
Right.
before then. But as of now, you know, I don't think I'm knowledgeable enough to be
Right.
qualified to make
Well,
a statement.
just to let you know, in the past, this happened in 1996. Mayor Eunice was the mayor, and he allowed Stonehill to change it from a bulk rate, which generates more revenues, to an individual residential rate per dorm. So the answer, we told the mayor, when we met with him when he was running for mayor 2 years ago, we told him to install a meter, $50,000 meter, to accurately measure the outflow. Now, we've lost over $2.5 to $3 million in past revenues, and we are losing about $200,000 to $250,000 a year. So I'm glad to see they're taking some action, but the other thing that disturbs me, I think if you look into contract negotiations, and a couple of the council members are lawyers, Bob Sullivan's a lawyer, and if you look into it, I think they recommend to put out contracts like 5 years. So after the end of 5 years, you have an adjustment period to see if it's working, you have an out clause. But that's some of the things you can look into. So what we advocated was we were losing millions of dollars in revenues to Stonehill. The D-cell plan, as you know, they withheld the payment, which was approximately $6.3 million a year, and eventually going to go up to $10 million a year. And the council had voted to withhold that until they got, I guess, confirmation from the senior partners at the D-cell plant if they effectively marketing the the services of that water. And they were supposed to spend, I think, $250,000, Bob?
Yeah, per year
On
on
marketing
marketing, yeah.
expenses, and they withheld payment for about 6 months. And then one of the meetings, the CFO, John Condon, threatened the council, one of the councils, I believe Council Monahan, asked him, do you think we should withhold these payments? And he said, well, you better reinstitute them or you can be sued. Now, the last time I checked, Mr. Condon was a CFO, and he's got good credentials in finance, but he's not a lawyer. And things like that are troublesome. We've already spent $45 million on this desal plant. To use that water is 18 times more expensive than Silver Lake, our primary uses. This is just an alternative plant. And now the mayor's got a proposal, he wants to pay $88 million for it, when the Korean firm bought it for $12 million. So
Well, I guess
mean,
the town of Dayton, they've only got it assessed to 20 million.
right,
So
and the
even
Koreans
that-
bought it for 12, yeah? And
Yeah.
we're losing,
Yeah.
the plant, by the way, is losing money, $1.25 million a year. So I think that, you know, you'll be part of that negotiations, we
I
hope.
think people asked me this when I was running, you know, about would I be comfortable signing off on paying $88 million for the plant.
Right,
And I think that's not. I don't think that's the price. I don't think Mayor Carpenter is willing to pay $88 million. But it's kind of the beginning price. You know, he's telling you up front. We're talking about they're looking for $88 million, or the starting price is $88 million, but they're going to go in there and they're going to say, look, you know, if they're losing $1 million a year or $1 million a quarter, you say, look, you're losing $1 million a quarter. This is going to need to be repaired soon. You know, you make a list. You talk the price down. You know, you get it lower, and you see if you can make a deal. I don't think either the mayor or the council will spring for $88 million.
Yeah,
so.
one thing, Jack, is, you know, no matter how much the city pays for that, it'll never be cost effective. It's a losing proposition, no matter what way you look at it.
right.
Couldn't
And-
we
you know,
couldn't
it's-
we run it like Taunton runs TMLP?
Yeah, but nobody wants to buy it because the water is too expensive.
Right, we took a tour of the plant about
About
a
3
year or
years,
two
that's
ago,
right.
2
I think it
years
was
ago.
A couple of years ago, yeah.
And our water systems manager informed us it was 18 times more expensive to use that water versus our primary water source. But I think what the mayor and some of the councils are banking on, that we'll have severe drought like we had years ago. That's why how this came about.
Because we didn't want to
The
join
state
the
mandated,
MWRA,
right,
yeah.
and mandated you need an alternative water source. But the problem is, what really disturbs us is, for years, we were Aquaria's only customer, the city of Brockton. No one else would use their services. So they did interview a few surrounding town managers, I believe, Easton and I think Bridgewater, and they said
West Bridgewater.
West Bridgewater, and said that, you know, not in the near future, but maybe in the distant future, we might consider it. And then the other town said, no way, it's way too expensive. But I think the underlying reason that they had this plant in the beginning, other than an alternative water supply, I think the ultimate goal is, I think they're gonna look for a source to use this water to, when the power plant, if it ever comes through, to provide the water source to the power plant. And I know they can't sell it potable water. It's gotta be wastewater, but there's certain things I think that they probably could do.
To
Either
not
pass
make it
legislation.
non-potable,
To
yeah.
make it either non-potable or pass legislation where they can. So that's what a lot of us, our feelings are. Now, were you against the power plant when you ran with your stance against it?
Well, when I ran, my stance was kind of, you know, I'm keeping an open mind.
Right.
You know, I'm still learning about both sides. Every day I talk, you know, one day I'll talk to somebody who tells me this about the plant, and the next day I'll talk to somebody who says, well, actually they're wrong. And, you know, people will go back and forth. But, you know, I'm leaning towards it. You know, it's a good, on its face, you know, the arguments for it I feel are more convincing a lot of the time. But it's really not even down to us anymore, the city council. It's down to the courts.
Right, but they had a home rule petition. I know that State Environmental Agency, when they first discussed this, said that they weren't going to get involved with local politics, and they wanted the local officials to decide what was good and bad for them. They wouldn't mandate it. And then the lawsuit came about with Brockton Power suing the city for infringing upon their constitutional rights not to go ahead with the power plant. And then the mayor, when he was running for mayor 2 years ago, made a statement he didn't need the council to get the power plant through. Well, that was kind of an arrogant statement to make, because he does need the city council, because it needs water to run, and the city council has to approve the water. So it should be interesting, but we encourage you, look at all facts, keep an open mind, and we've sat here many shows, Bob, and the pros and cons of a power plant, and the air quality in the city, and if it would hurt our air quality, and if it was a safe plant to have in a city in a residential area like Brockton, where a similar plant blew up. So,
Well, you look at the residents on the south side of the city.
Right.
Overwhelmingly, they don't want to see that power plant
and
built.
they're afraid their property valuations will really go down as a result of having a power plant in the backyard, and they're probably right. So the big thing was it was supposed to generate $4 million, I believe, in added taxes, and it was going to be a substantial amount of jobs created. Well, it may be true in the beginning when it's built.
Construction jobs.
Construction.
There's
and
only,
that's
I believe,
why,
10 permanent employees in the. But
Correct.
I did look.
That's,
Playing,
by the way-
playing devil's advocate. I did see the breakdown, precinct by precinct of the mayor's race, and the mayor did beat McMillan in, if not all, most of the precincts in Ward 4, where the plant would be.
So you're saying by the fact that he was pro power plant, that was one of the reasons he beat him?
It would be interesting to see, whether they decided, for just to overlook that, the good outweighs the bad,
Right.
or whether they, I don't know. It's interesting to see.
Well, plus I think the mayor had the backing of a lot of the unions, and obviously the unions, for self-serving interests, want a power plant to be built to create jobs.
The unions, they have to look out for their people. That's their job.
Right.
Is to protect
But there can be
workers.
other projects as well being built in the city that use unions. Construction jobs, other than power plants. We can pursue green energy as well. We have, I think, some solar power panels down on the south side of the city that we can look at, and President Obama gave us billions of dollars in taxes too to bring them about. But it'd be interesting to see. A lot of people feel that you go on a referendum, let the people decide, like the casino.
The plant?
Right, the power plant.
That would be. I think if you were to put it on a referendum,
Right.
you'd have to wait until the whole court thing was settled, though.
Right.
Because I don't want to get the city's in a position where if we mess up with something like that, and we get sued
Right.
again, we're not really in a position to walk that off.
Right.
So I'd want to be very careful about it.
Yeah, we're hearing behind the scenes a lot of the councilors are striking a deal now. We don't know if it's factual, but there's been some meetings that if Brockton Power removed a personal lawsuit against some of our elected officials, that they would allow them to come forth and drop the suit. So we'll have to see what happens, but I mean, that should not, I don't think, come down to a personal decision on their own financial liability when they're responsible for overseeing 100,000 people. Now, also, the windfall of $4 million in taxes could be drastically offset by property devaluations, particularly in that area. So that's something to think about.
Property values are very important. Yes.
Exactly. So we would have an increase maybe in these taxes coming from a power plant.
Yep.
But we'd have a severe loss of property taxes. So you have to weigh the lesser of two evils there, not to mention, we're not even assured that power because it has to go on National Grid in Connecticut and be sold to the highest bidder.
Yeah, well, that's a misconception a lot of people have.
Right.
They're under the guys that we're going to benefit from this, as far as electric rates. But like you say, it's going onto a grid.
Yeah, so it should be interesting, and we'll have to follow that closely. Now, some of the other issues we brought about too is the funding of the Rock Stadium, and we brought that up several times on the show. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the city just re-entered another 10-year agreement with the baseball stadium. And basically, if you look at that contract, which I have in detail, and I'm a finance guy, you'll see payments start off where it's top-heavy with the 21st Century Corporation taking, by the way, the hotel on Mills tax that was designed to fix up downtown, to renovate downtown. They cut a deal, the city funded the 21st Century Corporation with this money, which is between $750,000 and $1 million a year, and they're giving it to the Rocks to pay for their water, sewer, and electrical bills. So, I mean, that was unbelievable. We looked into that, and the first 5-6 years, again, it's top-heavy with the city making the payments, and then the last 3-4 years, it starts going the other way. But, I mean, they're losing money as well. So, I know you bring up a good point, and probably about a good 80% of our budget is through taxes, residential, commercial, the state appropriations to fund education, where they pay about 90% of our educational costs, and we just pay transportation costs. But there are deals that have been made that we all question for favoritism, taking care of a few select people out there with special agendas, like the power plant, like the casino, the Rock Stadium, and it seems like everyone's always tied in these deals and at the people's expense. So I think there are other ways you can generate revenue as well by putting an end to these deals.
We have to, as a city, I think we have to go out and seek, proactively seek businesses and try and bring other opportunities in. So we're not left with a, back against the wall kind of option with anything. We want to be able to pick and choose what comes in instead of having, well, it's this or we're financially screwed.
Well, one thing about bringing new business to a city, you had mentioned earlier about being fiscally
Responsible.
responsible, for managing the money, the taxpayers' money. And this city historically makes a lot of bad deals. They squander money. Well, the desal plant we're talking about, that's a prime example of it. There's $6.5 million out the window every single year. Imagine how much good that could do for the city.
Right, you could hire a lot of public safety.
Of course,
officials.
I think that some bad deals are just, that's just how the government works,
Well,
It's something we need to fix, but it's
Well,
something
hopefully you
that
can do
happens.
something about it.
Well, hopefully
Like
with-
all
that's-
governments.
right.
What was it? What was it I read? I read it a while ago. The federal government,
Right.
they've made their fair share of bad deals, more than we have.
Right.
They spent $1.5 billion to build tiny treadmills for shrimp to study their metabolism.
Right, well, there's...
It's all
obviously
sorts
there's
of
a lot of-
interesting
right.
deals. Yeah.
But I mean, what you're saying, in order to attract businesses and people here and have people leave, I think we have to get crime under control, right? So we need some good public safety programs. I think we have to repair our infrastructure, our streets and parks and facilities, and make it attractive for people. And I think we have to definitely come up with additional revenues. And I just told you, we figure we could save about $21 million getting out of these bad investments. And that way there you could lower the commercial tax base and offer more tax incentives to allow businesses to come in, as you know, the TIFs, where you hold the property value at the same price for 20 years, 10 years, or you don't charge them any taxes for 5, 10 years till they're up and running. But I think in favor of us, we got a great educational system. As you pointed out, our location off the highway, all the major highways, 495, 24. I think we have some nice parks. DW Field Park is a gem. We have some great golf courses. And hopefully, we can make some significant changes here in all those things we talked about, get the crime rate down, get the taxes down, come up with some new thinking, and hopefully people like you, some new blood in the council, will take a look at what's going on, and hopefully you won't be persuaded and be forced to do stuff and play ball with some of these people to enhance these special agendas. So we hope that you keep an open mind and you make your own decisions and what's good for the people. I remember we had one show, Bob, and we asked state representative candidates that said if it came down to a decision that affects your constituents versus what the House leadership want you to vote, which way will you vote? And almost, I think all 4 of them, or all 6, I can't remember the amount of people, said, oh, no, we're going to favor our constituents. Well, then we tracked a few votes that hurt our city, and they voted with House leadership. So they may tell you one thing when they're running, but when they get elected, it's a whole different ballgame.
It's another story.
So hopefully you'll keep an open mind and make some good decisions for you people. Now, one particular issue to your ward, I just saw, I believe Representative Michelle Dubois said that they were looking at an indoor sports complex. Is that in your ward, Ward 6?
Yes, off of Howard Street.
Right.
Was it 37?
So that could be a positive, I think, asset for our city and our youth and the community, and encourage them to keep busy. And
it's in land not being currently used. It's
Right.
it's a really good, really.
Yeah, it's the old removal park.
Yeah, it
Right.
sounds like a really good deal,
Yeah.
and I'm hopeful and I'm confident,
Right.
and I'm interested to see this go forward.
Yeah, and then I think someone was proposing a veterans center as well, I think, shelter for veterans down in Ward 6. That was, I think, on Ames Street at one time, or maybe on Main Street, North Main somewhere.
I don't know whether it's, it might be on Ward 7. It's right on the borderline there on
Yeah.
North Main Street. The old Catholic
the
Charities.
mainspring Father
Right.
Bill's. That's
Yeah.
on the corner.
And then there's a
Corner of
recent
the
rash of new development as well, and I know there might be a problem with the infrastructure of the pipes to support all this new development in Ward 6. For years, people, Bob, you're a resident of Ward 6, and I think there's been a problem with water issues. We know there was a problem with water bills, faulty water bills, and Bob was
The old
one
water,
of
the
them.
water fiasco.
Right, his nickname is the Water Pirate on our show because he was presented with a $22,000 water bill. And that's what we had, faulty meters, and they put liens on people's homes till it cleared up. And finally, he made a settlement, like, let's make a deal with the city solicitor. And his bill was substantially reduced. But it was like David Letterman, top 10. They said, oh, the reason your water bill, you're topping off your pool during the winter, the pool's closed. There's a large oak tree in your front yard. One of the roots must have tapped the water line. I mean, you're going to find
Well,
out
that was
real quickly.
Yeah, that was Ayanna Cato.
Right.
She's right on the Brockton Holbrook line in a Campanelli.
Yeah.
And she had a water bill for $101,000. And the water systems manager actually visited the house, and he looked around, he pointed at the oak tree. He said, that's what's sucking up all your water. Now, for that to happen, you know, you're building water that passes through your meter. The water would have to pass through this woman's meter, and then go out and feed the oak tree.
Right.
That's how preposterous, you know, that whole thing was.
Yeah.
Well, we could certainly use some more investment in pipes, and in the roads above them. There's some roads in the ward that have not been paved since they were originally paved in the early 60s.
Right.
The thing is, the catch-22. You want to make the city look good. You want to make it run good to attract, more businesses and more people. But in order to do that, you need the money from businesses and people. So it's an interesting.
Well, the half hour went by fast, so we're out of time. We want to thank you again, and good luck on the city
Thanks for
council,
having
and
me.
we'll be following you, and wish you the best of luck. And you're in political science major at Bridgewater University. One of the professors always comment on Brockton politics and some of the deals. So, again, Jack, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And best of luck.
Congratulations, yep. Okay.
Thank you.